In the midst of a bloody and horrific battle, the patriarch of the Sunwoo clan stands drenched in his own blood after a fierce attack. With a face covered in blood and tears, he listens to his opponent's mocking laughter, who scoffs at him for being the patriarch of the Sunwoo clan yet only using techniques from other clans like Ching Cheng and Dian Kang. The enemy scornfully wonders if the patriarch has forgotten his clan's famous style, the 13 Swords of Sunwoo. The opponent, a demon from the blood demon sect named Dodong, is revealed, sitting coldly amidst the massacre. Beside him stands the fourth son of the Sunwoo clan, Sunwoo Gui, indicating a betrayal from within the clan. Dodong asks Sunwoo Gui if the secret martial art was passed down to the patriarch alone, while Sunwoo Gui admits he has forgotten. Dodong bitterly describes the Sunwoo clan's patriarch as a despicable scoundrel who brutally and mercilessly slaughtered his own relatives. Dodong then turns his attention to a little girl, threatening Sunwoo Jin, now revealed as the last patriarch of the Sunwoo clan, to kill her with the same cruelty. The girl is revealed to be Sunwoo Yunha from the same clan, standing firmly and holding her sword. Sunwoo Jin looks at the scene in despair as the ghosts of his fallen clan members appear behind him. In a state of collapse, Sunwoo Jin apologizes to someone he calls Commander, admitting he could never be like him. The memory of his commander's words comes back to him, urging him to stand tall and not blame himself for the outcome, and that true defeat lies in giving up, not in losing. Thanks to these words, Sunwoo Jin gathers his resolve and decides to fight to the end, realizing that if he were captured alive, he would become a mere puppet in Dodong's hands, and that this fate might one day befall his commander. Sunwoo Jin decides he cannot let that happen. In a moment of heroic despair, he decides that if death is inevitable, he will die on his own terms, and grabs a dagger to end his life. Dodong stares at the scene in shock and disbelief, wondering what he is doing. Sunwoo Jin declares that although Dodong may kill him, he will never be able to use his body, vowing to kill him even if he becomes a ghost. Dodong screams in denial as Sunwoo Jin commits suicide. In his final moments, Sunwoo Jin laments his life, wishing he had lived it more fully and not wasted it running away from confronting his brothers. He regrets not allowing his talent to flourish freely. As his consciousness fades, he suddenly hears a mysterious voice calling him a scoundrel. Sunwoo Jin suddenly finds himself in front of an older man shouting angrily in his face, calling him a scoundrel and asking if he has anything to say. Sunwoo Jin wakes up in a state of confusion and shock, believing he is now in a dream. The man before him is the patriarch of the Sunwoo clan, his father, whom he hasn't seen in 10 years. Sunwoo Jin finds himself in his younger body, confused by the situation, still in a daze. His father tells him that his silence means he confesses to killing the third young master of the Dan clan, who was supposed to become his brother-in-law. Sunwoo Jin is shocked, wondering how he could have killed someone named Dan Hasang, his future brother-in-law. He remembers that Dan Hasang wasn't just anyone, but his only friend, though all of that happened over 10 years ago. Sunwoo Jin tries to clear his name, remembering he was drunk at the time and had no motive or even the strength to commit such a crime. In a horrifying moment, he realizes the terrible truth. He has traveled back in time, specifically to the day he was falsely accused of murdering his friend. With his hands tied, Jin replies that he remembers nothing. His answer enrages his father, who shouts in his face and calls him a fool, asking if that's all he has to say. The father desperately wonders how he will face the patriarch of the Dan clan after this crime, while Jin's three brothers, Sunwoo Seong, Sunwoo Hyuk, and Sunwoo Gui, stand with smirks of satisfaction. The father threatens to kill Jin and send his corpse as appeasement, but the brothers suggest a crueler solution, sending him to the Dan clan alive but paralyzed so they can take their revenge and vent their anger on him. Sunwoo Gui, the fourth brother, makes another suggestion, sending Jin to the demonic front, pointing out that the alliance had requested someone from the clan's direct bloodline. Since Jin is doomed either way, sending him there would at least make him useful. The brothers immediately agree to this proposal, as it means none of them will have to go. It is explained that the demonic front is a border region established against the blood demon sect, which has taken over the Yunnan province. 10 years ago, the war of blood and righteousness broke out between the sect and the Murim alliance, and although the alliance barely managed to halt the sect's advance, they failed to reclaim Yunnan. As a result, the demonic front was created, and fighters were recruited to guard the border. Jin realizes to himself that this front has, over time, become a place where clan heirs are forcibly exiled. Although he would normally be considered too weak to be sent, this fabricated incident has given his brothers the perfect excuse to get rid of him. Jin deduces that this is the best possible scenario for his brothers and that one of them must have set him up. Jin recalls that his father's decision to send him to the front is the same one he made in his previous life when he was 21, and that 2 people had visited him that night. His thoughts are interrupted by the arrival of a visitor, Sunwoo Yunha. She asks him worriedly how he is, and he replies that he is fine and asks about her. She says she is fine and assures him that she believes he is not the culprit. Jin remembers that in his past life, all he did was cry and thank her for her words. But this time, with his new awareness, he asks her why she is so certain of his innocence, which surprises her. Jin explains to her that her fiancé, Dan Hasang, was his only friend, and he had no reason to kill him. He tells her they were drinking together face to face when he suddenly saw a sword that he wasn't holding plunged into his friend's back. Yoonha is shocked and asks him why he didn't tell their father these details, to which he gives a shocking reply. Going to the front seemed like the best option. Jin explains his painful past to Yoonha. After his mother's early death, he had to survive on his own without any family support. Although he was considered a genius due to his strong memory, he was forced to pretend to be an idiot to live. Over time, his true personality eroded due to this act, until he truly became a fool, a disgrace to the clan who could do nothing but laugh foolishly when ridiculed. He lived like this for 21 years. He explains that in order to change, he must leave the clan and go to the front, where he hopes to meet his idol, Wind Dragon, Seol Bong. As Yoonha leaves, Jin notices that something is different this time. In the past, she had only comforted him. He wonders if her reaction has changed because he didn't cry in front of her this time. While lost in thought, he is surprised to see his father appear outside his cell. Jin realizes the change is not limited to his own behavior. His father's presence here at this time also seems different from his memory. He wonders anxiously if his change has begun to affect the entire course of events. Jin recalls that in his past life, when he begged his father to let him escape, the man did nothing but sigh and leave in silence. But in this new reality, his father surprises him with a direct question. Was he truly framed for the charge against him? Jin is stunned, wondering if his father overheard his conversation with Yoonha, and if there's a possibility he believed him even in his previous life. The father admits he always knew Jin was pretending to be a fool, but he never knew of his desire to leave the clan, expressing regret for not realizing it sooner. The father asks for Jin's forgiveness, blaming himself for being a useless father who caused the ruin of his son's life. Jin stands bewildered by this transformation. He had always known his father as a passive person who never intervened to protect him from his brothers or their mothers, but he finds a justification for his father's past stance, realizing that the influence of his brother's maternal families was so overwhelming that his father himself had to submit to them, and perhaps his distance was a form of mercy, especially since Jin had no support from his mother's side. The father asks his son if he has any requests. Jin seizes the opportunity and asks for permission to spend one day in the clan's archives. The father is surprised by this simple request. Jin explains that he is ashamed of his complete ignorance of his clan's martial arts and wants to learn at least a little before going to the front. But in truth, his plan was deeper. In his previous life, despite becoming patriarch, he didn't know any of the Sunwoo arts, forcing him to steal techniques from other clans. He now believes that if he can learn the 13 swords of Sunwoo, he will be able to build his strength much more quickly in this new life. The father doubts the possibility of mastering martial arts from a book in a single day, but Jin replies that it's better than nothing. The father agrees to his request, but adds a surprising condition. He tells Jin that training internal arts alone is dangerous, that he will teach him himself, and orders him to sit in the lotus position immediately. Jin complies with his father's order in a state of shock and confusion. The father begins to transfer his energy to his son, announcing he will pass on the primal infinity art to him, and starts reciting the verses for him to memorize. Jin realizes his father is teaching him the secret art that is only passed down to the patriarch and his heir. Although this development should make him happy, Jin feels a strange and unsettling feeling as he receives this knowledge, wondering what this feeling is. Elsewhere, Jin's brothers protest vehemently against their father's decision to let that fool enter the archives, demanding he reconsider his decision. The father says that Jin dying uselessly on the front would tarnish the clan's name. The eldest brother tries to object, but the father silences them firmly, asserting that his decision is final. Jin appears, laughing secretly, thinking that one day in the archives won't change anything. But with a cunning and wicked smile, he thinks to himself that one day is more than enough time for his plans. Inside the clan archive, Jin sets a clear goal for the day, not to master the martial arts, but to memorize everything in the archive by heart. Jin reveals why he was considered a genius in the past. He possesses a photographic memory that enabled him to survive in his previous life by copying his comrades' movements on the battlefield. He recalls that his commander later called this talent eidetic memory. Thanks to this ability, Jin is confident he can absorb everything in this library and vows to use this knowledge well. He decides to start by reviewing the primal infinity art he learned from his father, then move on to studying the clan's ultimate technique, the 13 swords of Sunwoo. After a period of intense study, Jin collapses on the floor, completely exhausted, feeling like he's going to die from the strain. Although he managed to cram all the information into his head, he discovers he understood absolutely nothing of the complex 13 swords of Sunwoo technique. He decides to go out for some fresh air, but falls onto the grass as soon as he steps outside, utterly exhausted, and considers giving up for the day. At that moment, his brothers approach him with a group of people, mocking him by saying a pig's nature never changes, as it just flops down wherever it pleases. A young lady in the group asks who he is, and the eldest brother replies that he is their shameful third brother, who is closer to a pig than a human. The brother continues his mockery, explaining to the lady that his father granted him a day to train before sending him to the demonic front tomorrow, but he is wasting his time sleeping, which surprises her. Jin got annoyed when he saw his brothers speaking ill of him in front of the girls. The others try to convince the lady, called Lady Joki, not to pay attention to Jin, insisting that he is not worthy of her attention and is just someone going to the front to pay for his crime. Jin immediately recognizes this lady's identity. She is Joki Soil from the Heavenly Grace Sword Summit, the sword genius who emerged from the Joki clan.